Bonjour, aujourd'hui c'est le vendredi 26 février. Les objectifs, on peut décrire une pièce, on peut utiliser les prépositions, donc un échauffement, un petit rappel pour le packet check-in, peut-être un petit rappel d'abord. Et puis chez moi 3, donc l'activité que vous avez faite en classe hier, et puis entraînement chez moi, et puis pour mardi. So a quick reminder, a lot of folks, I think 4 of you turned in the packet check-in. And I was really hoping to get a lot more. I was hoping all of you would. So that was a little disappointing. It's a really great way to practice the skills you're going to need for the recording you're doing on Tuesday. If you didn't get that into me, you might be kind of missing out on the chance to practice that vocab. And because not enough people turned it in, I don't want to go over it in class today. So that's kind of one disadvantage that y'all will have going into Tuesday, but it's all good. It's all good. Um, but definitely get that to me as soon as you're done. All right. And then I'll ask you to turn in the packet at the end of next week. Ok, très bien. Ok, donc pour un échauffement, qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end? Donc aujourd'hui, c'est vendredi. Ouais, vendredi. Qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end au salon? Qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end dans ta chambre? Qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end dans la cuisine? Donc par exemple, ce week-end, je dans la cuisine. Donc quelqu'un avec un exemple peut-être, juste pour nous donner une idée. Qu'est-ce que tu fais dans la cuisine en général? Et on peut parler, hein? Faisons cette activité à l'oral. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait dans la cuisine en général? Est-ce qu'on joue aux jeux vidéo dans la cuisine? Est-ce qu'on regarde la télé dans la cuisine? Est-ce qu'on prend une douche dans la cuisine? Non. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Is everybody following? Are you confused? What I'm asking here? Uh-oh. I got a thumbs up. I don't know if that's because you're, yes, I'm confused, or yes, I get it. OK. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait donc en général, donc par exemple, qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end dans la cuisine? D'accord. Je prépare le dîner dans la cuisine, par exemple. Par exemple. OK. Donc, s'il vous plaît, réfléchissez et répondez à la question. Qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end au salon, dans ta chambre, dans la cuisine? So take a moment to think and then answer the question out loud. Why am I asking you to do this as a warm-up? Because it's a good warm-up to get you into French. But then also, you're going to be doing something like this when you're turning in the activity on Tuesday, right? Okay. So go ahead and take a moment to think, and then I'd love to hear some voices. Everybody give me maybe one example spoken. Ok, ouais, donc qu'est-ce que tu fais ce week-end au salon, dans ta chambre, etc. Et c'est très utile pour l'activité chez moi. Ok. Donc maintenant, regardons les réponses, regardons cette activité. Et vous avez très bien fait pour cette activité. J'étais très content. Vous avez très bien réussi à ce petit quiz. So y'all did really well with this little quiz. And I liked this activity because it incorporated a lot of great vocabulary for the living room, right? But then also using it with prepositions. And this is the kind of thing you will have to do, right, for Tuesday's recording. Donc, où est la lampe? So, if you want to, you can put your answer in the chat. You can even just put A, B, or C if you want. And then I'll go over the answers. Donc, où est la lampe? A, la lampe est à côté du fauteuil. B, la lampe est sous le rideau. C, la lampe est en face de la fenêtre. Où est la lampe? I think I'll try to get, let's see, a pointer. There we go. Oui, la lampe est à côté du fauteuil. Super. Donc ici, voici la lampe. Voici la lampe. There's a kind of significant lag with the projected slides. Donc voici la lampe. Voici le fauteuil. Ici, c'est le fauteuil. Donc oui, la lampe est à côté du fauteuil. Super. Et ici, où est le canapé? Où est le canapé? A, B ou C? C. Très bien, ça marche. C. OK. Donc voici le canapé. Ça, c'est le canapé. Et la table basse. La table basse. This is an example of a vocabulary word that I didn't teach y'all explicitly, but you may just know. You may be able to kind of infer, right? Table basse, a coffee table. Literally a low table. OK? Donc le canapé est derrière la table basse. Some of these other answers I gave you were intentionally kind of goofy. Le canapé est dans la lampe. Why is that weird? What's weird about that? Yeah, the couch is inside the lamp. It'd be pretty tricky, right? So I intentionally made some of them a little bit silly just to really make sure that you're not led astray, that you know not only the vocabulary, but also the prepositions. OK. Où est le tapis? Où est le tapis? A, B ou C? Sous la table basse, en face de la lampe, derrière la plante. Où est le tapis? A, B ou C? OK. Donc voici le tapis. Voici le tapis rose. Un peu rose, un peu orange, un peu couleur pêche. OK. Donc voici le tapis. C'est sous la table basse. Le tapis est sous la table basse. Donc la table basse et le tapis est sous la table basse. OK. Où est la plante? La plante est à côté de la lampe. La plante est sur la commode. La plante est sous le tapis. A, B ou C? I'd love to see some answers in the chat. A, B ou C? À côté de la lampe, sur la commode, sous le tapis. Oui, la plante est sur la commode. Super. Hein? So here you've got la plante up here. Maybe it was a little confusing because there was another plant here. Maybe that was a little confusing. But in your answers, I tried to make it clear. There was only one really correct answer. Et puis, il y a la commode. Donc, la plante est sur la commode. What's weird about the last one? La plante est sous le tapis. Can you explain what that means? La plante est sous le tapis. Why is that not the best answer? Yeah, the plant is under the rug. That would be pretty weird. What are you doing putting plants under your rug? I don't think that would be very effective for sunlight or anything like that. Okay. Où est le fauteuil? Où est le fauteuil? And I made a point before asking you this to teach you fauteuil because it's a tricky one. It's not something that you can just guess. It doesn't look similar to any word we have in English. Yeah. Donc le fauteuil est derrière la fenêtre, le fauteuil est entre le canapé et la lampe, ou le fauteuil est dans la table basse. Quelle était la bonne réponse? A, B ou C? C. Non, ce n'est pas C. C, ça va être un peu bizarre. Ça va être, ok, donc ça c'est le fauteuil. Le fauteuil est entre le canapé et la lampe. Ok? Hein? Le fauteuil est derrière la fenêtre. What's wrong with that one? Why does that one not work? Le fauteuil est derrière la fenêtre. Why does that not work? The armchair is behind the window. That would mean it's probably on the other side of the window. That would be kind of weird. What would an armchair be doing on the other side of the window? And then si le fauteuil est dans la table basse, the armchair is in the coffee table, is inside the coffee table. Again, doesn't quite make sense. So with these kind of things, even if you don't know all the different pieces, you can use process of elimination to try to kind of suss it out. And one of the reasons I had you do this activity was to practice seeing these so that you can then take inspiration from some of these for your own recording on Tuesday. Because I'll ask you to situate some of the things in the room, whichever room you choose to describe. Donc, où est le café? Donc, le café. Où est le café? Sur la table basse. Le café est devant la fenêtre ou dans l'étagère? A, B ou C? Des idées? Ok. Le café est sur la table basse. Donc voilà le café, the coffee, like a cup of coffee, ok? Sur la table basse. Devant la fenêtre, yeah, I mean, technically it's in front of the window, but it's a ways in front of the window, right? It's pretty far away from the window. So I don't think devant would probably be the best one for this. Et le café est dans l'étagère, that's possible. It's inside the bookshelf. Okay, so it could be on resting on the bookshelf next to a book, but that isn't the case for here. Okay. I'll go ahead and speed through some of these other ones because I'm not seeing a whole lot of responses. But again, we're trying to pick the best answer. So la commode est derrière le fauteuil, right? It's behind the armchair, right? Entre les chaises, between the chairs, no, not quite. It doesn't quite work. Devant le canapé, in front of the couch, no. Huh? Okay. So some of them, there are answers that are very clearly wrong. Others, it's kind of like, well, the best answer. What's the best answer? Où est la table basse? Dans la plante. The coffee table is inside the plant. Strange. La table basse est derrière la fenêtre. La table basse est entre les chaises et le canapé. Okay, so it's going to be in between the chairs and the couch. Entre les chaises et le canapé. So what I would encourage you to do is to go back and look at this quiz. You can do it again if you'd like, right? You're welcome to. But to look at this for examples for how to use prepositions to describe where something is. So for your recording on Tuesday, I'm asking you to situate different objects in the room. Okay, chez moi. So for chez moi, you're recording yourself giving a brief description of the room of your choice. So it can be any room. We've talked about bedrooms, we've talked about living room, we've talked about kitchens, attics, basements, whatever room you choose, okay, it's up to you. But you wanna make sure you hit those points, those 4 kind of checkpoints, right? And there's a detailed rubric that kind of helps you organize it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through a few activities right here, and I'm gonna give you a chance to practice alone and with some partners, all right? To get you started. Donc d'abord, quelle pièce vas-tu décrire? So please put in the chat which room you've decided on. Which room are you going to describe? Ok, donc quelle pièce? Si tu n'as pas encore choisi, choisis vite. Huh? If you haven't chosen yet, choose quickly. You want to get this out of the way so you can move forward. Donc la cuisine, ta cuisine, ton bureau, ta chambre, ta salle de bain, ton sous-sol, ton grenier, ton salon. You have lots of rooms to choose from. It doesn't matter which room you choose. You want to choose a room that, you know, it's probably not going to be like inspiring, right? But you want to choose a room where there's a lot of stuff to describe, where you feel like confident, like, okay, I can describe this and this and this. I can use an adjective to describe it, et cetera, et cetera. So if you haven't chosen, I'd recommend choosing in the next couple minutes because we're going to do some activities around it. Ok, donc ma cuisine est sale, hein, n'est-ce pas? Ma cuisine est sombre, peut-être laide, hein. Ma cuisine est lumineuse, chic, peut-être, hein. Donc, quels sont les adjectifs pour décrire une pièce? Hein? Lumineuse, une chambre lumineuse, un salon lumineux, une chambre propre, une chambre sale. What are some words we could use? And let's brainstorm together. So please put some ideas in the chat. Okay, I hope you have some good ideas for words to describe your rooms, whichever room you chose. Et puis, pense aussi à quelles activités fais-tu dans cette pièce? What are some activities you do? Okay. So go ahead and start making a list. And I would recommend starting in French, a list. Don't do it in English. Start in French, okay? Because if you do it in English, you'll have to go back and translate. You're making more work for yourself. And you're opening up the opportunity to find a word that isn't entirely correct, a word that you don't want to use. Like coloré, for example. We talked about coloré, how that's not the best for colorful. And I offered bariolé as an alternative. So start thinking about adjectives to describe your room, general adjectives to describe the room you're going to introduce and describe, but then also a list in French of some activities you do in that room. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to take 5 minutes, passer 5 minutes à identifier 2 ou 3 adjectifs pour décrire la pièce, 2 ou 3 activités que tu fais et 5, 6 objets dans la pièce. Okay, et ensuite tu vas décrire la pièce avec une partenaire. We've run a little short on time. Folks were a little slow to respond to some activities, so we didn't get through things as quickly as I'd hoped. But so it goes. But I'd like you to take, let's see, we have 5 minutes, so take 5 minutes, yes, take 5 minutes to start brainstorming these things, collecting these details. You can write them down. You do you, okay? And then I had hoped to take some time to kind of share with a partner in breakout rooms, but we don't have time for that. So that's okay. But please take about 4 minutes. I'll start a 4-minute timer to go ahead and start brainstorming your list, and then I'll ask you to kind of speak up after and share some ideas that you have, since we won't have time for breakout rooms. Okay, très bien. It sounds like folks were productive, which is really, really great. I'm really happy to hear that. Again, I'd hope to take some time to give you all a chance to kind of share with each other and practice. We ran out of time. Um, for this weekend, I would recommend definitely record and submit it. It's due Tuesday evening. For this weekend, I'd recommend getting together your ideas and practicing the recording at least once, a description of the room. And you could even describe it to your parents. All right. You could even describe it to them, even if they don't speak French. And if you're describing it and you're kind of walking around the room, they might be able to understand what you're saying. Okay. In the recording you're submitting, you're not recording a video, it's just audio. So that makes it a little bit more difficult because you can't gesture to something. You've got to really make it clear and enunciate and stuff. But a good way to practice would be with your parents or your brother and sister, or maybe your dog. I don't know, right? Just presenting the room to them in French, just to get familiar with it. For the recording, I'll say bon weekend, but if you'll stick around for just a moment, I'm gonna send a link to y'all and a quick announcement. So for the recording, I'll say au revoir et bon weekend. Some Transformers action.